Hello everyone, good evening, good evening. This is Choma Odikolo here. Do I have anyone live with me? Good evening, good evening, good evening. If you're live, please let me know. Let me know you're live. If you're live, please let me know you are live so you can join us. Okay, I understand it's quite late, but I needed to just do this and we can all catch replay. So if you're live, please let me know. Let me see your comments so we can proceed. All right. Okay, while we wait for the comments, let's proceed. All right, my name is Choma Odikolo. You're all welcome to our Facebook Live video today or session today. And today we'll be discussing about, when is the right time to give my child a phone? Most parents, most of us keep asking, okay, when is the appropriate time for a child to have a phone, for my child to own a phone? That's the question a lot of parents are asking, especially parents that have teenagers, parents that have adult children. So today we're going to be discussing about this issue of, the right time to give a child a phone, or the right time to give your teenager a phone or an adult a phone. So before we even go, before we go to the right time, as parents, we need to look at the key considerations. What are the things we need to consider before we give our children, irrespective of their age, teenagers, adults, before we even expose them to the phone, before we hand over a phone to them? So what are the things we need to consider as parents? So number one, we have to consider the maturity and responsibility of our children. Yes, as parents, we have to assess whether our children, whether they are mature enough to be able to handle the responsibility of owning a phone. It's our duty as parents to check the responsibility, to check if our children are mature. That child you want to give a phone, is this child exposed? Is this child matured to own this phone? The human brain develops fully when a child or when someone is in his or her mid-20s. That is to tell you that our brain, is fully developed when we are in our mid-20s. So as a parent, the child or that your child you want to hand over a phone, is that child fully developed? Is that child fully mature to take care of, to deal with all the issues that phone come with, to deal with all the issues that the internet throws at the child, the social media throws at the child? Is the child fully mature before you hand over that phone to that child? You also have to check as a parent, how responsible is this my child? Before I can even hand over a phone to this my child, does this my child follow rules? Because it starts from the little things they do in the house, because we can judge their responsibility based on the little things they start to do in the house. Does this my child follow rules? How does my child even keep track of their personal belongings? Yes, it's part of responsibility. How responsible is my child, with technology? Before you hand over a phone to your child, you have to check all those things. How is my child taking care of his personal belongings? Has my child been able to prove to me that he or she can take care of his personal belongings? Have my child been able to prove to me that he or she can follow rules? We as parents need to consider all this before we hand over a phone to our child or our children. Then the second point we need to consider is, what is the purpose of the phone? What is the reason? Why are you giving your child a phone? Why are you handing over a phone to the child? Why does this child even need a phone? Are you giving your child a phone because every other parent around you is giving their children phones? Are you giving your child a phone because that is what is obtainable now? That is the in thing. Are you giving your child a phone because it's part of pop culture? Are you giving your child a phone because you don't want your child to be left out? Are you giving your child a phone because your child will not be emotionally stable? Or are you giving your child a phone because everyone in your child's class has a phone? or are you giving your child a phone because every parent in where you live within your neighborhood have bought a phone for their children that are of same age to your child? As parents, we need to consider the purpose of a thing. What is the purpose of giving my child this phone? What is the reason? Why does my child even need a phone? Is it for safety reasons? Is it for probably safety? Maybe when you need to communicate with the child, if the child is at home or when the child has gone to school. Is it for communication? Are you giving your child a phone because you want, your child to be able to communicate properly with you? Hello, can you hear me, please? Hello, please, can you drop in the comments if safety and digital literacy? If giving your child a phone, has a phone that has internet access, how are you able to keep your child safe with, the child being able to access the internet? How safe is your child in the internet space? Have you prepared this child for what is to come? Have you prepared this child for what the whole internet is used for? Have you prepared this child for, what the child might likely see? Have you prepared this child for the actions, what they need to do when they encounter things that don't align with their values? We have to consider that as parents. It's very important we consider that as parents. Have you even taught your child how to be safe? Have you taught your child about not disclosing personal information about themselves, in the internet space or on social media? As parents, we need to consider this before we hand over a phone to our children. Then another reason or another point we need to consider before giving a phone to our children is monitoring and parenting control. So who is going to monitor this phone? Who is going to monitor the activities our children are doing with their phone? As parents, we shouldn't leave anything to chance. We shouldn't just leave it because, you're giving the child a phone and you're not monitoring. As I said earlier, the human brain is fully developed when a child or when someone is in his or her mid-20s. So you giving a phone to a child that is not fully developed, that means you're doing a disservice to that child. So it's our duty and it's our responsibility as parents to monitor the activities our children do with their phone. You should also put in place parenting controls, put in place the right safety measure that will guide this child, that will protect and guide this child while this child is making use of that phone. Another consideration we need to take note of as parents is social and emotional readiness. Yes, is your child ready for a phone socially and emotionally? Especially with now that we have a lot of smartphones, we have a lot of children or teenagers using, smartphones. This smartphone sometimes it exposes these children to peer pressure, it exposes them to bullying, it exposes them to a lot of social challenges. So as parents, have we prepared our children for these challenges that is to come? Have we prepared them for what to do? Have we prepared them for what's, their response? Have we even told them that this thing is what you're likely to see? So it's our duty to ensure we prepare our children first in the social space before we hand them over a phone. As parents, we should be more concerned. Our children should be more technologically savvy and not social media savvy. They are two different things. We should be more concerned about making our children to be tech savvy, to be able to use technology to add value and not just putting our children on social media. So we have to prepare our children socially. Another thing we need to do is that we have to check the emotional maturity of our children. Are our children emotionally mature to use a phone? Because even we as adults sometimes we find it difficult to even regulate our emotions. Sometimes when someone doesn't comment on your post, probably you're angry or you are reacting in a way. When someone is commenting, you're reacting in a way, or probably you don't like the response or the comments. Sometimes we even get carried away with our phones and with social media. Then what more of our children that are still learning, still growing and still developing? So before you hand over that phone to your child, ensure you've prepared your child emotionally. Ensure your child is emotionally stable to be able to handle everything that child will see when the child gets to the social media space. Another thing we need to consider as parents is that we need to consider the cost and the maintenance. Yes. So we need to ask our children, we need to find out, we need to have this conversation. Who is going to take care of the cost of managing this phone? So when this phone gets missing, when a part of this phone gets broken, when something happens to this phone, who is going to take care of the cost of this phone? Who is going to ensure that this phone is properly maintained? Who is going to ensure that everything about this phone is going to be handled? We need to let our children know, and we need to also tell our children, teach our children that they will take responsibility for their phones. So it's very important we consider this as parents. Then lastly, as parents, when you have adult children, you can start gradually to introduce these phones to them by teaching them what they need to know about using the phone, the things they are likely to see, telling them about the world, telling them about the use of the phone, the benefits and the disadvantages of the phone. So when you're able to introduce it gradually, when you're able to teach gradually, it's very easy for our children, to be able to learn what they need to learn. And when they are in that social media space, when they are in that big space where they have to use a smartphone, at that point they are equipped with what they need to know, and it's very easy for them to be able to navigate their way and navigate any challenge that comes their way. So as parents, we must understand that it's our duty, it's our responsibility to keep our children safe. Have we ever wondered why is it that a lot of a lot of things, before a child can do most things in different parts of the world, they will say till this child is 18 years. Some countries, before a child can drive, they'll say till 17 or 18. So many laws, till this child is 18. That's to tell you that 18 years, which signifies the age of someone being an adult, it's very important for us to consider that age. So before you expose your child to the world, before you expose your child to that big space of social media or the world, we need to equip our children, and we need to consider all these things and more of what we've talked about today. So that's all I have for us today. So I don't know if we have any comments. Do we have anyone that want to comment, that want to say a thing or two? Do we have any questions? Okay, I can't see any question and I can't see any comment for now, so I believe we'll all catch replay. So thank you very much for listening to me today. I believe you've got value for your time, and I believe as a parent you now know what to consider before you hand over a phone to your child. Thank you very much, and do have a good night rest. Bye.